Hi, my name is Richard and I'm the creator of CalendarKit. In this tutorial, we're going to build a calendar app for iOS. It is similar to the app you can find on your iPhone or iPad. We'll start by creating an Xcode project, then we'll integrate with the CalendarKit and then fetch the events from the local EventStore. It is really simple and you don't have to have advanced Swift skills in order to follow it. Whether you are a beginner iOS developer or more seasoned one, you can definitely learn something from this tutorial. So let's get started. All right, let's open up the Xcode and select Create New Project. Then select Platform iOS and App. The product name could be pretty much anything. For example, Calendar App. In the organization identifier, you can also plug in your organization, whatever that could be. I'll put CK. Interface is storyboard because right now CalendarKit does not support SwiftUI natively, so I'll be doing this tutorial in UIKit. And lifecycle is app delegate, language Swift. Do not enable core data and tests, and click next. Now you can save your project on the desktop. Click create. So here we are in a brand new Xcode project. Let's resize it a bit. Right, so here we are in the new Xcode project. After creating a new project, we need to delete storyboard and configure our app to launch programmatic user interface without using storyboards or Xibs. Start by deleting the storyboard. Click on the main storyboard and select delete. And you can move it to trash. Then go to info, click on your project and go to info. Now we need to delete these storyboard keys so that our app will not attempt to launch from the storyboard, but will indeed launch user interface programmatically. Click on the main storyboard file base name, main, and delete it. Just click on this minus sign or press the backspace or delete button. But that's not all. You need to open the application scene manifest and then scene configuration. Application session role, item 0, default configuration. And then you can find storyboard name, main, and you need to also delete this. Just press delete on your keyboard or press this minus sign. It will delete this line. Then we need to go to application scene delegate. Scene delegate is responsible for setting initial window and view controller so that we can configure how our app will launch. Just click on the scene delegate. And as you can see, these method scene will connect to session is completely empty because the project has been configured to use storyboard. And now we need to add our code there to launch this app programmatically. So first of all, let's get the scene, call it window scene. And then we need to create a new window. So we already have the window variable here. Just type window equals UI window, and that will create a new window for our application. And you can already select window scene and pass it there, window scene. This creates and associates a new window with that scene. Now it's time to create a new view controller that will display in that window. Let view controller equals to UI view controller, or actually we can use already this view controller that we have here on the left, the default one. View controller selected from the list, and that's it. And I usually create a navigation controller so that the app will have the navigation bar on the top. Let's create it right now. That navigation controller equals UI navigation controller. And select the root view controller here so that we can pass our new view controller to that navigation controller. Yeah, and let's set this navigation controller to be the first view controller in our scene, in our window. Window dot root view controller equals navigation controller. And we can make our window visible and key. Window, make key and visible. So this brings up our window to the foreground and shows our view controller on the display. To test that everything works all right, we just need to go and change something in our view controller so that we can clearly see that the app uses our own custom view controller and not something else. Go to view controller, and as you can see, it's completely default. There is no methods added except view did alone. And just add something here. For example, I usually change the color of the background view. View.background color equals red. This will make it red so we can clearly notice that the app is launching with our view controller. Let's launch the app. Perfect, it's red. So as you can see, the background is red, so we're definitely launching this view controller. Let's stop it. Now we need to rename it to something more descriptive. For example, calendar view controller. Just click on the view controller and select refactor, rename. And let's rename it to calendar view controller, because that would be our calendar. So now it's time to integrate with the CalendarKit, because the library will handle all of the UI for us. Simply open your web browser, for example Safari, and search for CalendarKit Swift. And usually the first link is the library we are looking for. CalendarKit is library for iOS and iPadOS and Swift. Perfect. Just select on the code and use HTTPS and copy this by clicking the copy button. Now let's go back to Xcode and select the project. Then you can select the very top project, not the target, and select Swift packages. Press on the plus, and now we can add our package. Press paste and click next. Now you can decide whether the Xcode will update the CalendarKit for you. Usually I will just go with the defaults. So version is up to next major, and as of right now it's 108, but you might get a higher version. Click next, and now Xcode will check out the CalendarKit and install it into your project. So choose package, products, and targets. That's one library that's being included in that project, and you need to add it to your calendar app target. Just do nothing here and click finish. All right, so the library has been installed, and now we can go back to our view controller. Let's try to import the library. Import CalendarKit. And now we can change this view controller. As you can see, the base class is UI view controller. You need to change it to day view controller. This class is coming from CalendarKit. And let's delete this background color equals red. All right, let's add some title to our view controller. For example, calendar. Title equals calendar. When we launch our app again, we'll see that the title has been shown in the top part of the app. So I think it looks better. All right, so the calendar works, and we can scroll through the days. We can click on the header. So the library is set up correctly, but it looks kind of empty. Let's add some events there. For that, we'll be accessing user's calendar. So in order to access user's calendar, we need to use the framework called EventKit. Let's import that framework, EventKit. And now I'll go quickly through what EventKit is. It's basically an Apple framework that allows you to access the events stored in a user's calendar. For example, if you have an Outlook, Gmail, or iCloud calendar, they can store those events in local calendar in the so-called EventStore. And now we can authorize our app to retrieve those events and display using our CalendarKit interface. You can take a look more on the Apple documentation website, but I'll highlight the main points here, so don't worry, you don't have to go there when you're watching this tutorial. And of course, I'll link this in the description below, so make sure to check it out if something is unclear. All right, so the main class that we are going to use is called EventStore. So this object allows the access user calendar events and reminders. But first of all, we need to include a privacy notice in our info plist file that we are going to access that store because we need to get a user's permission before we can do anything with the calendars. So go to the calendar app and select your target and select info plist. Then click on the plus sign. This will add a new line below. Delete text and type privacy and select privacy calendar usage description. And feel free to add something to notify the users that you are going to use their calendar data. For example, the app needs access to calendar to display events. All right. So when we added the string, we can actually go and implement our code to get the events. Go back to the calendar view controller. So our EventKit library is already imported here. And now let's create the event store. Just create it as a variable in the view controller class. Private let event store equals ek event store. That's it. And on application view alone, we need to ask for the calendar permission. Let's do it right now. Let's create a function called request calendar access permission. And now implement the logic to actually request the permission. We need to type EventStore. And there is a method request access. And we can actually request access both to reminders or to events. For this tutorial, we need access only to the events. So press dot and select event as your entity type. And completion handler, you can handle this later. So success and error. So you can check the success variable if the access has been actually granted, and if not, you'll get an error. So, and now let's invoke this function here, request access to calendar. So let's run our app again. And when you run it, the app actually should ask us for the access to user's calendar. Perfect. So calendar app would like to access your calendar. Apps needs access to the calendar to display events. So this was the privacy string we added before in the info plist file. Just press OK. So now we are free to access the events in user's calendar. And yeah, let's add some there because now the calendar is empty. Just go to the actual calendar app in your simulator and hold somewhere on the timeline to create a new event. I'll create a few just to see that everything is working as correctly. Blue event, and now I create another one, for example here. Green event, and I'll change the calendar so it will be green. It's just a different calendar, and I'll create one more. Red event, and this one will be red, related to the red calendar. So we have 3 events, and now I hope they will display correctly in our calendar app. To do that, we need to implement a method called events for date. It works in a similar way as UI collection view or UI table view data sources. So the calendar kit will ask you to provide the events for a specific date, and you basically have to provide them. And calendar kit will take all of the rest itself, like for example, layout, display, colors, and so forth. So let's create that method, events for date. And as you can see, the type is event descriptor. So if you want, you can create your own class. It just has to conform to this event descriptor protocol. For this tutorial, we're going to use the default class called event, which is provided within CalendarKit. So now we need to use the EventStore to fetch the actual events we just created. Let's do it. So to fetch the events, we need to create a date range. So the date provided with in this method is actually the midnight of the date we are interested in. For example, if today's Sunday, 23rd of May, the date will be the midnight of the 23rd, and it will be in the current time zone. So we need to create a range, basically starting from the midnight of today and finishing with the midnight of tomorrow, just the beginning of tomorrow, so we can fetch all of the events that are included in today. Let's get this date. Let start date equals date. And now we need to create a day components. Basically, one day is one component, one kind of component. So day components can be seconds, days, years, and so forth. It says how much of the difference we need to make another date to have compared to the one we have right now. So var components, one day components equals date components. Just create a new class, instance of the class, and one day components dot day equals 1. So it says that the span of these day components will be just one day. And we can create the end date. Let end date equals calendar. This is the current calendar, by the way. It's also the instance variable of the day view controller in the CalendarKit. Calendar date by adding date components, one day components, to our start date. And add the exclamation mark so that it's an optional, so that we don't need to unwrap the optional and handle that. If there is an issue, it will crash the app, but for now it's okay. Now we need to create a predicate which will say that we want to fetch just all the events from the beginning of start date to the end of this date. So let's create this predicate. EventStore predicate for events, because we need to fetch events, not reminders. So the start date will be our start date, and end will be basically the end date we created. And for the calendars, we need to pass nil. That will fetch the events from all of the calendars. But for example, if you want to fetch just the green events, then you need to pass that specific calendar you're interested in. For now, let's fetch the events from all of the calendars. So now we're ready to fetch the events from the EventStore. Let EventKit events equals EventStore dot events matching predicate. So this will actually fetch everything that is included in that day. But the type, if you look a bit closer, the type of the EventKit events is eKey event, and that is not compatible with the value we need here. So we need to convert those EventKit events to CalendarKit events. Let's do it right now. Let CalendarKit events equals EventKit events. So we just use the events we had before, and you need to use the function called map. It's a higher order function, so it basically takes another function as an argument. So just select map and press return key again, and this will help us to create a closure. So eKey event is going in, and now we need to create for every EventKit event a separate CalendarKit event. Let's do it. Let CalendarKit event equals event. So this just creates a basic instance of the class called event. And let's copy all the parameters from the EventKit event to our CalendarKit event. It's pretty simple. CalendarKit event start date equals EventKit event start date. The same goes for the end date. And now we need to actually pass the color of the CalendarKit event. And to do that, we need to fetch the color of the calendar. So we use the optional unwrap construct called eFlat. So eFlat event color equals EventKit event.calendar.color CG color, because there is no UI color of the calendar. And then we can get the we can set the color of the CalendarKit event. Just create a new UI color, because CalendarKit needs to have the UI color, and it's just a different type, and use this initializer with the CG color and pass that event color. That's it. So, and you need to return this newly created event. So I'll explain what this method is doing right now. So map function takes every EventKit event in this array, which we just fetched from our EventKit store, and applies this code for every event that it finds in this array. And we need to fix this. We need to add an explicit type. Just add the return type, and the return type would be event. All right. And the only issue that we have right now is missing return in a function. We're basically not returning the events that we need to have in our data source method. Let's do it. Just type return and return the events that we have created in this map function, CalendarKit events. So if everything goes right, now we should see the same picture that we see right now in our app. Just press run. And here we go. All of the events are actually in the calendar. Perfect. So I hope you see the same picture, and congratulations, you just created your first calendar app. But before we finish our tutorial, we need to do one more thing. In the current configuration, we can actually get notified for new events. For example, when the user creates a fourth event, for example here, we will not see it because the calendar will not know that it needs to refresh the page. So to do that, we need to subscribe to the EventKit store notifications. And after that, every moment the new events are created or other events are deleted, the store will notify our controller that something changed. CalendarKit will have to react on that change and refresh the whole data source and ask for all of the events again. So let's do it right now. It's really simple. You just need to add one more function here called subscribe to notifications, and use notification center and listen for a specific event. Notification center default, subscribe, add observer. Observable is self, and now we need to create another function. For example, store changed. Just add Objective-C prefix here, because otherwise your notification won't work. Store changed. As the parameter, you need to add notification. If you want to get some information about which event changed and some other, but in this tutorial we are not going to use it. We'll pass this selector here so that the moment something changed, the system will call our method and we'll know that we need to react on that changed. So add selector and store changed. Please know that it's an Objective-C method as was written here, and it wouldn't work if you will not add this Objective-C keyword. Notification name is it's a predefined name. Just press dot, and the name is eKey EventStore changed. You can select it here. And for the object, we don't need anything here in this case, nil. And now you need to invoke this function the moment the app is launched and this controller is displayed. So we can add it to the view data load. As soon as view loads into the memory, we'll subscribe to these notifications and get notified on every store changed. And as the reaction of on that event, you just reload all of the data, similar as you would with table view or collection view. Just type reload data. Let's relaunch our app. And I'll put a breakpoint here so we can actually see whenever the store changed is called. Let's add another event around here. Go back to calendar and create another event. And now we can go back to our app without actually relaunching it. And as you can see, the store change notification got called. And now when I press run, the event should actually appear around here. As you can see, the event successfully appears, and that was it. So now you got your calendar working, and this would be a base point in experimenting with CalendarKit. So we are right now in the same spot we finished our tutorial with. And if you click on the event that you have in the calendar, it will not open anything. It will basically be do nothing. But for example, if you go to the default calendar and compare the same event, you'll be able to go and check the details. Let's add this functionality first. As you know, CalendarKit uses a data source pattern to get the events from your view controller or your data source if you have a specific object acting as a data source. So CalendarKit asks for the events and you provide the events for a particular date. However, when we want to get feedback, for example, when our event got clicked or somebody tapped somewhere on the timeline, CalendarKit uses the similar pattern called delegate. So it will notify another object called delegate that something has happened. So we'll use the delegate pattern to get events that somebody has tapped on our event view. So just scroll down and add the method that we'll be using to react on the click. So as you might guess, to react on the event tab, you just need to use the method called DayViewDidSelectEvent. And this event will be called whenever somebody is selecting our event. And let's add some print statements to check if this callback gets called. Print event clicked. And run our app again. As you can see, we are getting events, so everything is working as expected. But before we continue, we need to clean up our code a bit. As you remember, we had to convert the EventKit events to our own CalendarKit event types. And when we're dealing with a lot of behaviors such as editing and creation, we better to use our own data type. It will be more convenient. Our own data type will encapsulate all of that behavior so that we won't have to worry about converting from one data type to another and tracking changes. Click on a file and then new file. We'll create a new data type that will be specifically converting between EventKit and CalendarKit data types. Select Swift file, press next, and add it to your project. We'll call it EK-wrapper. So it will wrap the event key event. Press create and don't forget that add to target should be checked. So and import few frameworks. Import UIKit and import CalendarKit. And of course import EventKit. You can delete import foundation because UIKit includes foundation. We won't write our code from scratch. We'll just go and copy the existing class and modify it to our taste. Select file, open quickly, or Command-Shift-O on your keyboard. And then type event. And you'll find the and you'll find the default CalendarKit event class. It's rather large, so you'll need just select all and copy. And just paste it to our own class. As you can see, the default event class just stores the data, such as start date, end date, and so forth. What we'll need to do is basically use our EventKit event to provide that information for us. Let's modify the initializer first and just select init and add EventKit event. And of course, we'll need to add eKey event and just store this event here. We'll create a variable. And what we want is that only the eKey wrapper can change this event and swap it. So it will be a private property to set, but public to access. So any class can get this event, but nobody can set it except the wrapper itself. So just add a private public. Just add public, public, and then private set or event, and just in your initializer, just assign this property on the initialization. And this is actually very important for the editing, but we will not modify it for now. And just add fatal error so that we silence the compiler. And what we'll need to do now is to use the EventKit properties, EventKit values, to provide the start date and end date. So delete the assign date, and we'll make this computed variables. Start date, date. And we'll need to write a getter and a setter for our properties. So for example, get would return just the EventKit value, start date. And now let's modify the setter. When something changes the start date in our event wrapper class, it will actually change it in the underlying EK event. So just type the event dot start date equals new value. It's the default variable in Swift name. It's always in scope, so you don't have to create it yourself here. And now you have to do that for every other property, for example, end date, all day, text, and so forth. I'll do it quickly for you. For the attributed text and line break mode, don't change anything. These values will not be used in our tutorial. For the color, we need to get our color from our calendar. So each event is assigned to a specific calendar, for example, red, blue, or green calendar. And those calendars have its own colors. We need to fetch that color and pass it to CalendarKit so that it knows which color to display. So remove the property observer, and it will be a get-only property, a read-only property. So you need to get your color by typing EK event, then you fetch the calendar, and getting the actual color. However, because the type is CG color, we need to convert it to UI color. One more thing, when we initialize our event, we need to make sure that the background color and the text color are aligned with our calendar color, because they all are derivatives of the same base color. It happens here in the update colors method, which basically changes each color according to the base color, that is the color of the calendar. Just add one more method call in the initializer. Just call update colors. And to make my code look great, I'll quickly re-indent it. Control I if you don't know this command. So, and last touch is just rename our event so that it will not be confusing with the main CalendarKit event class. Click on the event, refactor, rename. And let's name it EKRoper. Now the class has been created, and we need to change our code in the data source. We will not do this. We will not convert our events manually. Instead, we will just pass the EKRoper class, and it will do the work for us. Feel free to delete everything up to the map, and now just initialize our Roper events with the EventKit events. Just change the parentheses to rounded ones and type the EKRoper.init, and this will do the job. So now this should compile perfectly, and let's run our application. Everything works the same. We have the same event as before, but way less code, as you can see. Now let's react on the event click. When the user clicks the event, let's add the code to show the detail view here. Let's import another framework called EventKitUI. It already contains the view we need, so it will be pretty easy. Let's get the CalendarKit event from our event view, because view is just a view class and we need the data model to be able to show the detail view. Guard let ck event equals event view dot descriptor, so that could be actually of any class, and we need to cast it to EKRoper. And if this does not happen, just return. So we got our CalendarKit event, and we can use it to show the detail view. Now let's get the original EventKit event. And now we can use this EventKit event to show the detail. Let's create one. The class is called EKEventViewController. And just set the event to it. And now we need to set a few flags to it so that we'll be able to edit our event and show it in the calendar. First property is allows calendar preview, and set it to true. This will basically display how our event will look in the calendar. And another property is allows editing, which will make it possible to edit the data. And now we're ready to present it. Navigation controller, push view controller, animate it, and just push it to the navigation stack. Let's run our app again. And now, when I click on the event, it should show a detail page. As you can see, it looks great. And we can also check on the existing default events. They also show up well. Now let's quickly refactor this code and extract this to a separate function. I'll just cut it and create a new private method. I'll call it presentDetailView. And just call it here. So now we are able to open the detail page, but we still cannot drag and drop as you can do it in the default calendar. Let's add that functionality. So now we can open the detail page and see what's there in the event. But what we want to do is actually to drag and drop the event in a way similar to the default calendar. Now you can just see it, and you need to do editing in this menu in order to change something. What we want is to be able to long press on the event so that two handles show up, and then you'll be able to rearrange it the way you want. I'll first go back to the default calendar to show you how it actually works. So here's the event, and you long press on it, and you see two handles. And now, if you drag it, you see both the old event and the new one, which is actually where the new date and time will be changed to. So once I lift my finger from the screen, the data is committed, and I can move it back, or I can use this resize handle to change the duration of the event, and now it's big. And basically that's what we are going to replicate in our application. And to exit the editing mode, I just tap somewhere else on the calendar, for example here. So first of all, I would like to explain how the editing works in CalendarKit, because as you can see, it's rather complex process. So as you know, we've created this EK class that's encapsulating the EventKit details and acting as a bridge between CalendarKit and EventKit. So basically, each event you see in the CalendarKit timeline is the EK wrapper. And you know that the callback is called when, for example, Dave, you did select event view. When you tap on it, the same callback is called when you, for example, long press the event. And actually, you can enable editing mode by any other means, by any way you want. But for this tutorial, we are going to use the long press event callback. Basically, once you long press the event, you get this callback. And in order to enable the editing mode, you need to call CalendarKit method called begin editing. So once you call that method, something happens, and instead of one event, you got two basically. And I'll explain what happens next. So once CalendarKit gets the begin editing command, it asks the actual event to provide an editable copy and calls the method called make editable. So this method then basically duplicates the event with the same parameters like a start date, end date, and as you remember, that original event is actually referring to some event stored in the device storage. So this editing wrapper in this case actually refers to the very same event. And one important thing is that in this second event, which has been just created, there is a property called edited event, and it points back to the original. So if you check any CalendarKit event and there is an edited event property and it's not empty, it's not nil, then you know it's this one. It's the one that is active right now that you can edit. So, and the same way, if you don't have if this property is set to nil, so basically there is no edited event property. If there is nothing to edit, then you know it's just a basic event which has the this property set to nil. And once you got the cloned or duplicated event, CalendarKit it adjusts just these event values. For example, when I move this event, for example, from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., it changes the start date and end date of this editing event. And the moment I lift my finger from the screen, the CalendarKit calls you back again, this time with a did update event. And then you basically decide how you act on this change. When you get the did update event method callback in your delegate, you can call commit editing on your event, and what that will do is basically synchronize two events. So the moment I lift my finger, the commit editing is called, and it makes those two events have the same values, so that the original event snaps directly underneath the editing event. And the same happens when you update, for example, start date or end date. You don't have to necessarily move the whole event somewhere. Once you decide that editing is complete, for example, by reacting on another delegate callback, such as did timeline, you call manually save changes and editing. So basically, you exit this editing mode. So it's very similar to UI table view editing functionality. So if you're familiar with that, you'll be pretty easy to set it up with CalendarKit. And how about creating a new event, for example, like this? So, well, it's very simple. It means that this event edits itself. So basically, the edited event property will point to the same event. Obviously, because there is nothing to edit, there is no saved event in the storage. So that's it. Let's recap it a bit. So first of all, you got the did long press event callback, and you decide how you react on that. And if you would like to begin editing functionality, you just call the begin editing, and you pass that event into CalendarKit. And CalendarKit, in its turn, just clones this event into two, and the original event stays untouched, and the new cloned event will be edited. And once the user moves the event, for example, to a different location, CalendarKit calls date update event callback, and again, you decide how would you react. If you would like the underlying event to snap directly to the new values, you just call commit editing, and that changes the real underlying event. But for example, on iPad, that behavior is different, and you'll need to actually confirm your editing before the data will be saved, and you have the option to cancel. On iPhone, it commits the data, it commits the changes directly. And when you want to exit, you just call end editing. So now let's implement this functionality in our app. So as you remember, we need to react on the did long press event. As you remember, we need to react on the did long press event callback. Let's implement this callback. Did long press event view. And what we need is to call the begin editing. There are two parameters. You can use the begin editing animated, or you can use the option with the without the parameters, without the animated parameter. But I prefer to start animated because this is user interactive mode, so it's better to show some animation. And just we need to get the EK event and pass it here. Very similar construct as here. I just copy and paste it. And let's pass it here. Just copy and paste. And this should work, although I'll also add another callback and editing just before begin editing. This will ensure if the user long presses one event and then immediately long presses another one, this will end the editing of the first event before beginning the new. So let's run our app again and see if the editing mode could be activated. So scrolling to the event and now long pressing. Oh, fatal error. Of course, as you can see, CalendarKit just called make editable method, and we forgot to implement it back when we just started. So now let's quickly implement this method as well, so that we get the cloned event. As you can see, it's of the same type as the original one. We just need to make a copy. Let's initialize our event. Since all the data in the original event is taken from the EventKit event, then we just need to initialize it with the same EventKit event, and it will fetch the same data. Pretty simple. And in order to simplify this, we can actually not write the EKey wrapper, but we can just write a big with a capital letter self, and this will initialize the instance of the same class that we're in, and pass the EventKit event. You can remove the init and just pass the existing EventKit event. Don't forget to set edited to the event we're actually editing. So we remove this fatal error, and now it should work just fine. Just again to confirm that this edited event is pointing to self, pointing to the parent event, so that they will have this link. Because if you forget this line, then the editing functionality will not work. And let's try to activate the editing event. Yeah, perfect. So you see that now we can edit this event, although the original is still there, it doesn't change. So our edits have no effect on the original event, and we cannot exit it, so except by clicking again. So now let's add another functionality to react on these changes. When, for example, I drag and drop the event here, what I would like to is that the original event also snaps here and follows the this active edited event. As I shown on this schema, we'll need to react on the didUpdate event method. Let's go to the calendar view controller and add that method. didUpdate event. Again, we get the event descriptor, a generic class that we don't know. It's basically a protocol. We don't know what a particular type it is, so we need to do a typecasting to get the our own EK robber. So let's populate our dViewDidUpdate event method. And remember that this event is basically the one which is being edited. So basically this active one and not original one. So we need to get both. So let's copy, let's create the guardlet construct. We use it a lot. And we call it editing event. And try to typecast as EK robber. So basically checking that the type is correct. That is the expected our own custom class. And now let's get the original event. So this one is editing and the original is being edited. So if let original equals editing event dot edited event. So edited event or editing event dot edited event, it doesn't matter. So if this construct, if this if let passes and there is actually an edited event, you can immediately commit editing. This will update the parent event, which is like not active. So if you can get the original event, then editing event is basically active, and again you need to call the commit editing, which will commit those changes back to the original event. And now let's save those changes to the EventStore. So we are saving our changes to the EventStore as soon as the user lifts the finger and stops editing. And don't forget to reload data so that the new changes appear on the calendar. Let's run our app again and see if now we can actually get our editing to work. All right, editing view is activated. Now let's move it here. And you see the original event snaps back. And now it snaps to the top. And I can drag to this handles as well. So yeah, seems to me that editing is working correctly. The only thing I cannot exit it. So we need to add a few more callbacks, and we need to react on the did tap timeline. So as soon as the user taps something else but the calendar, the editing mode will be disabled, and we and we'll go back to the viewing mode. Let's implement this functionality. So if the user did tap timeline, we just end the editing. And the same if the user starts dragging our calendar somewhere here. So as you can see, the event is still in editing mode. We would like to exit it. And let's check it out again. So editing, moving here, and tapping somewhere here. Perfect. Our event now snaps back into the viewing mode. And the same if I try to drag it, it immediately snaps back. That's good, but we need to add event creation option. So in a way as I do in the default calendar, I want to just tap somewhere on the timeline and long press, and then I should get something like this. So the event with about an hour duration, and when I pop it back, I'll get the menu with all these parameters filled in, so I have to just type the event title and I can get it. Pretty easy. So this is the only thing that is missing in our calendar app to be a perfect clone of the Apple's calendar. Let's implement it. Let's check back how event creation works. I'll quickly show the demo. So as you remember, the created event is the same as edited event, except its property edited event pinpoints to itself. So what we need to do is just create the same event ourselves and change this property to be circular. And we'll be reacting on the did long press timeline method. So right now, if I go to our app, if I try to long press the timeline, there will be nothing happening. So I'll need to fix that. So let's create a did long press timeline method. And this callback immediately gives us the date at which the user has pressed. So for example, if I press it at 7 p.m., I'll get one callback. If I press it at 9 p.m., I'll get another callback, and I'll be able to create event immediately at this spot where the user actually pressed the screen. So yeah, as I shown, we need to create this new event. Let's create it. First, we create new EventKit event. We need to pass the EventStore. Yeah, so first of all, we need to create a new EventKit event, and don't forget to pass the EventStore because the EventKit event cannot exist without a store. And yeah, just configure it in a way you'd like. So for example, calendar, EventStore, calendar for default events. Now let's create the date range for our new event. Let's say our newly created event will have 1 hour of duration. Just let's create date components and set it to 1 hour and get our end date. Let's use the calendar date by adding components, 1 hour components, to our date, which is start date. So the date here will be start date and this date will be end date. And now set those dates to our event. And we need to create some title. And as you remember, now we need to package our EventKit event into CalendarKit event. And now let's link the edit event property to the same event. So this will tell CalendarKit that it should show this event with editing controls, and on the other hand, there is no event in the store back in it, so it will still show the controls, but will not show the underlying event, obviously. And to call the create animation, just call the create method, create event animated, and pass your wrapper. Let's see if this works. Alright, so I can clearly drag my newly created event, and if I lift the finger, will it snap back? Oh, it has been created here. And if I click somewhere on the timeline, yeah, the event has been committed. But I can go here and view my newly created event and back. But what I would like to have is another control popping up, similarly to the Apple's calendar. So for example, when I finish dragging, there will be a menu asking me to enter some other information. For example, change the title and probably cancel the event creation. So let's implement that functionality. So in order to show the form with event details, we need to catch the exact moment when the user lifts the finger. So for example, when I just create the event, drag it, for example, I want it to be at 10 a.m. And once I lift it, at this very moment, I should see the form. And the CalendarKit calls the same method, did update event, regardless whether you create or update a new event. It will go through here. For newly created event, the property edited event is the same. So it's a circle. It's a circle reference. We can use that to check if this event is a newly created one or it's just another event being edited. So just add a few more lines and add an if check if original event 3 equality sign and editing equals editing event. So which means if this instance of this class of the EQ roper is exactly the same instance, are we talking about exactly the same object? And if it's exactly the same object, it's basically the newly created event. And if not, this will be our editing flow. And this will be event creation flow. So when we are editing something, when we are editing existing event, we just save it. But remember, when we are creating the event, we do not want to save it yet, because the user might want to cancel it. I'll show you in a moment how the Apple's calendar works. So if I drag event somewhere here and then press cancel, the event will not be saved. So that's why we call EventStore save only when it's an editing flow, when we are editing an existing saved event. And in the event creation flow, we just need to show this form. So in the same way we created present detail view for event, let's create a present editing view, which just show a different view controller. Present editing view for event, and just pass editing event dot ek event. And of course there is no such method. Let's create it immediately. And the type will be ek event. And now we need to show a different view controller called EventKit editing view controller, which is a bit different from the event view controller, which is just showing the detail, and the editing, it will show the controls to edit. It's basically this view that we'll be reusing. So it's really simple. Let editing view controller ek event editing view controller, just create a new one, and pass our event and EventStore. And you can present this view controller modally in a way Apple Calendar works. Present view controller. Present view controller animated. And completion is nil. One more thing. So when we show this form, we need to know when the user presses cancel or save and react on the change so that we can dismiss this view back. So let's run the app and see how it works before continuing. So yeah, I have a lot of events. I'll try to create a new one, and the form pops up, and if I click on discard changes, it will still be here. So and that's because our view controller doesn't know that the user actually pressed cancel. So in order to react on those changes, we'll just need to implement a delegate method, and that method called EventKitUI did complete. So first of all, just go up to the top of the file and add another delegate. Just press the comma and ek event edit view delegate, which you will need to implement. And at the bottom, we will create that method, event edit view controller did complete with action. Basically, this tells that the user has either saved or canceled the event. Yeah, and now just set the delegate here. When creating our view controller, editing view controller dot edit view delegate. It's important not to set this delegate because it's a different one. You need to set the edit view delegate and set it to self. And let's run our app. So I'll switch to tomorrow and try to set the event at 7 a.m. As you can see, perfectly matches the data that we set when dragging our event, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and it's new event. I press add. And of course nothing happens because we do not react on these callback. So let's finish the editing here and reload our data and dismiss this view controller. Controller.dismiss, animated true, and completion is nil. Let's try again. The event is there, but the controller didn't dismiss, so I'll drag another event here at 1 a.m. and type something in here. And of course I can change these values to whatever I want. And press add. And the new event is here. Of course I can use editing in order to change the event starting and end date because everything works as we already implemented that. So that was it. I hope you just built your own copy of the Apple Calendar, and if you have some questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting more iOS related content soon, and of course this whole code will be published on GitHub. You can just check it out, and if something is not working in your app, just free to check out the GitHub and see how could you improve your code to match what we achieved in this tutorial. So hope you learned something, and see you in my next video.